Hey everyone, Boardgame Brody here with Meeple Mountain. I have a copy of Empires. It's a medieval combat card game for 2 players by Christopher Rossetti of Rampage Games. The game can be played in about 30 minutes after knowing the rules and has an age limit of 13 plus. So first let me explain what we have here. Each player will have a battlefield mat. Here I only have one, but really your opponent will have one in front of them as well. When you're new to the game, it's advised that you use these quick start decks, but later on you'll be able to draft cards to form your own deck. And just to mention, one of the things that I really liked when I first opened up this game was seeing that there are separate civilization expansions available, each including 18 new cards. Anyways, in the game you will have your own town center placed anywhere on your battlefield. You will have your front line, your support line, and your back line. Units or buildings will take one of these slots. If using technologies, which are used in more of the advanced games, you can place one of those on this left spot here. Your deck will consist of 30 cards and will be placed here with the discard pile placed above it. Players will take the top 7 cards to begin forming their hand, and each player also starts with 100 gold tracked by a card. The turn structure starts with the maintenance phase. The current player pays all maintenance costs listed on their unit cards on their battlefield, and then that player can also pay to repair any of their buildings. That would happen if any of their buildings got damaged. They would pay the cost listed on that card, taking the damage tokens off of them. The draw phase. Here players can take the top card of their deck, which doesn't cost any gold. For 3 gold, a player can draw an additional card. And a player can do this how many ever times that they want to. They can now also draw the top card from the discard pile, paying 5 gold, and get any card from the discard pile for 10 gold. Next, the technology phase. Players can then activate their technologies. Some are one-time uses, while others have a continuous ability. Continuous and equip tech needs to be placed in one of these slots here on your left. These cards will give you bonuses and can be activated during this phase on your turn each turn. The movement phase. Players can then move units depending on its movement value listed on its card. Movement is orthogonal adjacent, where a diagonal move would cost 2 movement. Buildings or units with a movement of 0 can then never be moved. Moving your units around will set up for your attack or your defense depending on your strategy. The deploy phase. You can then construct or deploy as many cards from your hand onto the battlefield as you have enough gold or tribute or space to do so. Tribute requires you to discard a number of cards out of your battlefield and then place the new card out on an empty space. Or gold is used to spend to deploy or construct the card that you want on the field. Some cards have an upgrade ladder on the bottom of its card. If you have the upgrade in your hand, then you can deploy it replacing the lower class card, and that card goes back into your hand. Upgrading lets you keep the unit that you upgraded to your hand rather than paying to draw it back to your hand and then redeploying it back out. Essentially, it saves you gold. The attack phase. All units or buildings with a range of 0 are considered melee units, and they only attack others that are 1 vertical or occupied adjacent line away. This means that melee will always attack the front line. If there are no units in the front line, then the first row that has units is considered the front line. Or in other words, if there is no units in the front line, then that line does not exist. Melee units can also do a charge attack, which would consist of attacking an enemy that is vertically in front, even if its distance is further than just the first line. Ranged attacks are a little bit different. When they have a range of 1 or more, then they are considered a ranged unit. These units can attack units beyond a vertical occupied adjacent line like melee attacks do. The range indicates how many adjacent lines that you can ignore or hop over to attack an enemy. For example, a range of 1 can attack an enemy on the opponent's front line or any on their support line. A ranged charge means that you can attack any enemy in the same vertical line regardless of distance. Units might also have a strength or weakness type that will either add +1 to the attack or when defending will add +1 to their enemy's attack. These strengths and weaknesses should definitely be used in your strategy. During your turn, each unit can only attack once, and when attacking, you will compare the attack number found on the attacking unit's card and compare it against the armor of the defending unit. The difference between the two is the damage that is inflicted. Damage tokens are then placed out on that unit to track the damage. Whenever the damage exceeds the unit's health, it is discarded and placed in the discard pile. The end phase. Players will then discard any cards on their battlefield at their own discretion and then end their turn. After that, the other player will then follow the same steps, and players will take turns going back and forth, forming a strategy, attacking, moving, doing whatever to set up and win. But really, the game is played with players just taking turns attacking each other until the town center of an enemy is destroyed. This will cause the player's gold reserve to bottom out to 0, because as you attack the town center, you will deplete their gold. And at that time, that player will win the battle. The game can be played with many different modes, and there are so many different cards that strategy can change from game to game. After knowing how to play the game, usually players will be able to construct their own decks and slowly refine them till a player likes what 30 cards they have in their deck. The game is designed and inspired by Age of Empires 2, and so a lot of the mechanics reflects what that game did, yet Christopher Rossetti felt like that design is a little cumbersome, and this game that he designed is less cumbersome. The game takes a little bit to grasp. Planning and experience will heavily help a player over an inexperienced player, but this is definitely one of those card games that can have tournaments that surround it. For those who like trading card games, the medieval theme seems fun and refreshing, and there's a lot of unique cards that can be made for a game like this. Of course, this is more like a base game version, but again, these foil packs that are included for the expansions, some might have some rare cards to keep you coming back for some better cards to put in your deck. They definitely make this game exciting. And so you need to create your team to battle it out with your friend or family in this 2-player only combat card game by Rampage Games. Again, this is Board Game Brody. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stick around and check out some other board game reviews to see what you might want to get to the table.